For example, the attack, William's attack, a physical attack on Harry, is he didn't have to go into that much detail about it, and William was, of course, very apparently apologetic.
All right. Well, Christopher, thank you so much for joining us as always. And, like we said, we have so much to talk about, a lot to get into. But after reading this book, what has stayed with you the most?
I suppose the element of grief. I mean, this has been talked about, the fact that his entire personality has been really shaped, by his relationship with his mother and her death, more by her death. I was just floored by the admission, that he engaged in some magical thinking and actually for 10 years refused to accept that his mother was dead. Both he and William thought that she would somehow appear, in much the same way that with John. I wrote a book about John F. Kennedy Jr. and his death, and a lot of his friends felt the same way. They didn't keep it up for 10 years, but the notion that somehow he must be out there, and I think that's the way they felt about Diana as well. And it's very well written, and as you could see from last night's interview with Colbert, the guy is incredibly charming. Although I was a little disappointed by the interview because it was there weren't any really great revelations. Things hadn't already been leaked.
You speak of the revelations. There was so much really to extract from this, but which of the revelations or these allegations that Prince Harry has made do you think has been the most damaging?
Oh, Camilla. I mean, I've always felt Camilla was the kind of the fly in the ointment here, the person who would cause the most trouble for Charles, and by extension the monarchy, because she's still, even though people say she's surged in popularity because of all of her hard work, well, she's surged from 18% to I think 49 or 50%. I mean, half the people in Great Britain, really, in the UK, don't want her as queen, at least half. And now she's being depicted by Harry as the villain, as he says. And I've written about this. I mean, I've seen her as someone who always intended at a certain point to, rehabilitate her image in a very kind of cunning way. Charles wanted her on the throne next to him, and she was perfectly happy to have that happen. But we do get a somewhat more, kind of sinister view of her now through Harry's eyes, I think. Although there are occasional lapses where he's happy that Camilla made his father happy, but to know that both Harry and William urged their father not to marry Camilla, and then to know, of course, that as I've written about in The King, they blindsided. Both of us were blindsided by the Queen's announcement that she was backing Camilla as Queen consort. That was something that has been resisted by the Queen for the 17 years of Camilla and Charles's marriage.
Yeah, it would have been interesting if somebody asked him about that, how he felt about that as well.
Yeah, I was hoping they'd go in that direction. I mean, that's one apparent. I guess Charles is handled rather. He's okay, and he's a sensitive, quiet man depicted in this book as someone who tried to connect with his sons after Diana's death, that sort of thing. But unfortunately, Charles is very defensive when it comes to Camilla, and therefore anything negative about Camilla, he's not going to take well at all. So we'll just have to see what he does. I was convinced that Harry and Meghan would be at the coronation. Now I'm not so convinced they'll even be asked, to be honest.
Right. Yeah. I mean, do you feel like Christine and I were talking about this before, about the whole, thought of taking accountability. He says that his family has never taken accountability, but do you feel like throughout this book, did he take any accountability? And did you feel like that was missing at all?
I did. And I think he's saying, yes, he knows that he's in part to blame, but then quickly turns it around in interviews and in the book to point the finger at it's funny because he's conflating the press, the tabloid press, and the royal family at every turn. Now, yes, of course, a lot of this has to do with the mere fact that it is a PR enterprise. I mean, this is all built on smoke and mirrors, the monarchy, It's a kind of a dog and pony show, and you have to cooperate with the press in some way. So a lot of that is healthy, But then, of course, the nefarious planting of leaks and stories to make other royals look bad so you look good. That's something that he just hammers away at, and it becomes such petty instances. For example, the best instance, everybody's talked about it, is the bridesmaids, the flower girl dresses The fact that who made who cry and who said exactly what to whom. Well, it's all laid out there in detail in the book, but in the end, who the hell cares? Most of us have bigger problems than this, and it's not the kind of thing that a whole empire should topple as a result of.
That's true.
It's interesting. He talks about almost that row, the row with Kate, and he talks about stories about his father and Camilla. He talks about so many people in his family.
Right.
He also talks about how they betrayed him. Is he not doing the same thing? Is he not betraying his family by sharing these stories?
Well, I as a journalist, I'm really, and just a human being, I'm really, really grateful that he was candid from my standpoint. But from his standpoint and the standpoint of the monarchy, of course, it does look as if, you're absolutely right. Who's betraying who here? They certainly feel a sense of betrayal, because they've kept quiet about a lot. I'm sure every member of the royal family, well, we'll put Prince Andrew in a different category, but every other member of the royal family could write an honest book that would, blow you away if they wanted to reveal everything. But they're not gonna do that because there's a little word called dignity, and family loyalty to some extent. So, for example, William's attack, a physical attack on Harry, is he didn't have to go into that much detail about it, and William was, of course, very apparently apologetic. But I guess Harry felt he had to because he wanted to underscore the fact that there was always an illusion people had of feeling that there wasn't tension between them, but there always was. And I've said this in the past where, when the Queen Mother, who's the most sensitive person in the family and warm and cuddly, she was that kind of person and a great martini lover. But anyway, when she tells you as a little boy to go sit in the corner so I can talk to your more important big brother, William, and there's only a 2-year age difference, it's not as if one was nearly an adult and the other was 10 years younger or something. I mean, that kind of thing wounded him. He would say as a teenager and as a young man, go talk to him. He's the important one. He's the one everybody wants, So that was interesting, the tensions between them, I think.
Yeah.
But again, they must feel wounded, in the family by all these kind of stories.
Oh, definitely. I mean, he keeps saying over and over again that he believes a reconciliation will happen. He needed to do this in order for them to move forward. But do you feel the royal family feels the same way?
Man, I do not. And as a matter of fact, they're perfectly capable, as we know from the story of, Wallace Simpson, Edward VIII, their royal family, when they close ranks, you can be on the outs for decades. So, and it's not as if Meghan and Harry don't have a life of their own now. So unlike the Duke and Duchess of Windsor, who were kind of exiled and lived this bizarre social life in Paris and other places where they just raised pugs and visited their friends and went to parties, Meghan and Mary do have an important existence. They have philanthropies and causes, the big public platform. So they can have a life. They can live a life. And that would make it easier, in a sense, for them to be shut off by the rest of the royal family, because the rest of the royal family doesn't feel as if they've sent them off to Elba or something. Mm-hmm. There's no reason they have to deal with. I mean, William and Kate, especially, I think, have such a heavy burden looking forward. And if the idea, don't forget, the likelihood is that William will become king in his 60s, frankly, if the longevity holds true. And so he'll have a similar, road to hoe here for the next couple of decades.
Mm-hmm. For more news, content, and exclusive interviews, make sure to hit the sub, like, and bell button down below and visit usmagazine.com.